Hello my fellow human beings. Welcome to my channel. You know, as a doll artist, I can create any doll I can imagine. So why would I ever buy a doll when I can make any doll I want myself? And yet there are dolls I would very much like to have. Like Macha and Yumepi from Volks. Both the Pink House and the Baby Star Shine Bright collaboration, although I have to say that I prefer the Pink House collaboration. I just like the makeup style and the outfits more. But these dolls are so inaccessible even if I had the money, and believe me when I say I definitely don't have the money for them, they still would be extremely inaccessible. And what do you do in this situation? Right, you create your own doll, inspired by the doll you would like to have. And that's exactly what we're going to do. And because Christmas is very soon, we also make a Christmas themed doll. As I said before, I do like the Pink House collaboration more, but because I made her a Christmas themed doll, she looks more closer to the baby collaboration. Here's her concept art. This time I really wanted to challenge myself and make everything of higher quality. I really wanted her to feel like a doll you bought directly from Volks, making her look as professional I could possibly make her. This doll is literally the opposite of my last doll. The last doll's focus was not on the outfit but on the doll itself. But for this doll, the outfit is the main focus. That's also the reason why this time we start with the outfit and not with the face-up. These are most of the materials I'm going to use for this doll. I started with making her skirt first. I made a very simple pattern for that. I printed the pattern out and pinned it onto the fabric that I want to use for the skirt. This skirt is meant to have ruffles, so I gathered a piece of fabric to ruffle it, but I have to say I think my machine is not really good for that, because the ruffles didn't turn out the way I wanted it. I cut out the skirt piece and then pinned the ruffle onto the skirt. I sewed on the ruffles, obviously, and then I used this lace and sewed that on to the skirt piece. Then I used this ribbon that says Merry Christmas in German. I tried to search for an English version, but I wanted it to be gold on white, and all that I could find was gold on red, which I didn't want it, and the only one that I could find was in German, so that's why it's German. But I used this and sewed it onto the skirt. I only sewed the bottom side of the ribbon and thought that I didn't need to sew the top side onto the skirt, but I don't know. I made the second layer of the skirt the same way, but without the Merry Christmas ribbon. And I stopped here, even though in my concept art it's meant to have 3 layers. I thought it didn't need the third one. I realized I did not like the way I sewed on the ribbon and decided to use this gold thread to sew the rest of the ribbon onto the skirt. And here's the finished skirt. I also made her an underskirt and a tulle skirt that I didn't end up using because I made the skirt again, and this time with all 3 layers. I didn't quite like the way the first one turned out because the ruffles, they weren't ruffling, okay? And therefore I made it again. But I have to say the second tier didn't ruffle again for some reason. And I also gave it a third layer because I did not like how short the dress was, or the skirt. I thought the bottom of the new skirt was a bit plain, so I wanted to sew on a ribbon. At first I wanted to sew on this ribbon, but I decided to sew a different ribbon on because this one made the dress look a bit too cheap. So I hand sewed this ribbon on, and I definitely think it makes the skirt look way better. And with that I was done with her skirt, and it's not perfect, but I'm definitely happy with it. I also try to overlock stitch everything because, as I said, I want everything to be of higher quality and feel professional, you know? On to her shoes. I printed these shoe forms out with my filament printer to help me make these shoes. I covered them with a masking tape to then draw on a pattern that I will cut out later. To be honest, I think it wasn't that necessary because I changed the pattern, so that was pointless. And here's the pattern. I already made the left one, as you can see, and now I'm going to make the right one the same way. I traced the pattern on this faux leather fabric and cut it out. I sewed it together, placed it on the shoe form, and then glued it on this cardboard sole. I used super glue for that, and it really helped. As you can see, it fits on the shoe base that I printed. However, the toe part had these wrinkles, and I tried to cover them up with the same ribbon I sewed on to the skirt. I made some straps for the shoes. I glued the shoe onto the shoe base, and there's where everything went downhill. I ran out of super glue, and I wish I didn't because I'm pretty sure it would have been much easier gluing the shoe base onto the shoe if I had super glue. And later, after I was done with the shoe, I did find another tube of super glue. I wish I found it earlier. I made some bows that I glued onto the tip of the shoes. And I also glued in some cardboard to make the shoe more stable. And with that I was done with the shoes. I did later glued in some foam into it to, you know, make it look better, but yeah, I was done with the shoes. The next thing I make was a blouse. For that, I once again used masking tape. Honestly, using masking tape is like unlocking pattern making easy mode. I traced a pattern on some paper. I made a photo out of this. Then I put it in Procreate, traced it in Procreate, printed it out, then traced this pattern onto fabric that I want to use for a blouse. Then I cut out the fabric and then sewed it together, mostly by hand, but I also used a machine here and there. It's just that the fabric was fraying like crazy, and I thought that making it per hand, sewing it together per hand, give me more control. I pinned the same lace that I used for her skirt onto the collar of the blouse, and then sewed it on. per hand. I continue sewing the blouse together. I also gave the blouse ruffles, but this time I gather it per hand, and it worked much better than with the machine. As you can see, I also overlock stitched the entire blouse. I also glued some fabric glue onto the edges to make sure that it doesn't fray. And here's the finished blouse. I added some button with this tool. The star buttons were originally gray, but I painted UV resin onto them and then chromified them. I also made her a top piece the same way I made her blouse, using masking tape. To see if the pattern works, I made a mock-up, but I ended up using this mock-up as the lining for the actual top piece. I wasn't sure what to do with the bottom of the top piece, so I decided to also give it ruffles. And here's the finished top piece. I sewed on some golden star charms as faux buttons, and I also gave it this brown bow that I attached to the top piece with a safety pin. Moving on to making her wig. This time I make the wig cap a bit differently. I once again use masking tape to make a pattern. I cut it out of the fabric that I usually use for my wigs and sewed them together. I made 2 wig caps, and one of them I will sew on this elastic band. I sewed both wig caps together, and with that I was done with the wig cap. Then I made the wig how I usually do it. I rooted in some hair for her braids that she has in the front of her wig. Then I used my new method to make cornrows to make her cornrows. I sewed on extra hair to create the tip of the cornrow. And I also used the same hair to sew on the cornrow onto the wig. I sewed the cornrow into the direction where her side ponytail was meant to be. And here's what her wig looks like so far. Due to the ponytail, her wig was very heavy, and that's why I needed Velcro to keep it onto her head. I still have to figure things out when it comes to wig making. I definitely like this wig cap, but it's still too flimsy. But at the very least, it keeps its shape and looks cleaner than my usual method. I made her a ribbon that is meant to go on her ponytail. I had to figure out how to style her ponytail because obviously it doesn't behave the same way a real life ponytail would behave. So I had to figure out a way to style it to make it look good. So I gave the ponytail a bun on the top and braided the rest of it and then tied it together with a ribbon. And I think that looks way better than even in my concept art, so I'm very happy with it. And here is her finished wig. I almost forgot to make her a cape. I made it out of this velvet fabric. At first I tried to glue on the white trim onto the cape, but I did not like what it looks like, so I sewed it on instead. I sewed on a hood and a ribbon so I can tie it onto the doll later, and that is what the finished cape looked like. And now we finally can make her face up. This time I had a bit difficulty with the pigment sticking onto the face, probably because I sprayed it with some glossy acrylic spray first and then it Mr. Super Clear. I did that because a lot of the time when you sand a dark skin doll, they become very ashy, and spraying them with a glossy spray first helped with that. I tried to give her a gradient lip just like in my concept art, but I couldn't make it work at all. I wasn't so sure if I wanted to paint the doll in my style or make it look more like Volks style, and I decided to make something in between. I already make some eyes off camera to use them to see what she would look like with them. I drawed on some baby hair as I usually do. And I glossed her lips and her waterline, which I usually don't do. And here's her finished face up. I already drilled some holes into her ears, and I have the snowflake charm that I wanted to use on a doll for ages, and she would have been the perfect opportunity to use them because she's a winter or Christmas themed doll, but I also bought these star charms and I like the way they look way more. And here's everything I made for this doll. I made her some stockings and underwears off camera. And now we can dress her up. You know, one downside to making your own dolls is that you never get to have this unboxing experience. I love unboxing experience so much that if someone gifted me the doll that I want, already dressed up and all that, I would be like, take this doll away from me. What is the point if I don't get to dress her up myself? and she's almost completely dressed, but before I show you the doll, I decided to give her 2 more accessories. I want to give her a teacup and a gingerbread heart. I painted the teacup white. I also glossed the rim with UV top coat and chromified it. I brushed on some micro glitter, but I'm not sure if that was a good idea. I made this design in Procreate and printed it on some water slide decal paper. I placed this design onto the plate and the teacup, and it was very difficult to place them. I glossed both the plate and the teacup with UV resin and cured it in UV light, obviously. I poured in some resin into the teacup and it almost didn't cure because I put too much pigment into it, but it eventually did. Then I painted the gingerbread heart. I painted all the details and then painted it with brown. I attached this lanyard onto the gingerbread heart and I sewed on this closure to make it easy to put it on and off the doll. And now here's the reveal. Isn't she cute? I love her. I think she's my best doll. Let's put the hood onto her, okay? Obviously, she's not perfect, but she's definitely an improvement. There are definitely aspects to her outfit that I'm not super happy with. Like, for example, the way her blouse sticks out. I'm not sure about that. But overall, I'm still very much happy with her. I unfortunately accidentally smudged her eyebrow, and I only noticed it after I sprayed Mr. Super Clear onto her. And it's a bit of a bummer, but not too bad, I would say. I, however, managed to sand off her baby hair because I did not like what it looked like, and I repainted them. I also gave her wig extra hair on her side temples. Is that what you call it? I really have to say, masking tape really was the MVP for this costume. All the outfit pieces that I made are not perfect, but I definitely learned a lot. Especially about sewing and sewing machines, and sewing machine settings. Now I know what some sewing machine feet are good for. I also didn't know that you can actually make an overlock stitch with a normal sewing machine, and that you can even buy a specific foot for that. I still have a lot to learn, but overall I'm satisfied with the doll. I hope you all like her as much as I do. I decided to name her Felicia. Get it? Because Feliz Navidad? Thank you all for watching, and bye!